Are you waiting for a heaven that never comes, trapped in a life that feels like the opposite? This is not about religion, it is about a radical shift available in your own mind. The final key I will share can unlock this state for you right now, in this very moment. You cannot afford to miss how all of this connects at the end. It is the most important part of our journey together today. Emptying cup. We begin with a question that seems very simple, but within it, you will find, lies the entire journey. What is your mind full of right now? If you were to look inside, truly look, what would you see? For most of us, the mind is a very crowded place. It is filled with yesterday's worries, tomorrow's anxieties, opinions we have collected from others, and judgments we have formed about ourselves. It is like a cup, you see, that has been left out in the rain, and it has collected not just clean water, but also dirt, leaves, and dust from the wind. Now, when you try to drink from this cup, what do you taste? You taste the confusion, you taste the bitterness, you taste the chaos. And so, we walk through life with this taste in our mouths, believing this is the nature of reality itself. We believe life is simply meant to be this way, a mixture of a little bit of clarity and a whole lot of debris. The first step, the most fundamental step in any transformation of consciousness, whether you call it thinking like a master, a sage, or a Christ, is not to add more to the cup. This is where we so often go wrong. We believe that to become better, wiser, or more peaceful, we must acquire more information, more beliefs, more techniques. We rush to pour in a new, special kind of water, hoping it will somehow purify the dirt that is already there. But what happens when you pour fresh water into a cup that is already full of mud? You simply get more muddy water, and perhaps it even overflows, creating a bigger mess around you. The path to clarity does not begin with adding, it begins with subtracting. It begins with the courageous act of emptying. To think like Christ is not to adopt a new set of complex dogmas. If you observe the nature of such a consciousness, you see a profound emptiness, a spaciousness. A mind that is not cluttered is a mind that can respond to the present moment with total presence and compassion. It is not reacting based on old wounds or future fears. It is acting from a place of pure, unconditioned awareness. So how do we practice this? We begin by observing the contents of our cup without judgment. You simply sit and you watch the thoughts. You see the anger arise. You see the memory of a past hurt surface. You see the worry about a future event. And you do not push them away, but you also do not cling to them. You recognize them for what they are, simply contents. They are not you. This is like holding a glass of muddy water. If you shake it, it becomes more cloudy. If you try to scoop out the mud, you will only disturb the water further. But what happens if you just set the glass down and you let it be? You do not interfere. You simply allow it to rest. Slowly, patiently, the mud begins to settle to the bottom. The water on top begins to clear. Your mind is the same. The practice of emptying the cup is the practice of letting the mud of your conditioning, your judgments, and your fears settle. It is not an aggressive act of cleaning, but a gentle act of allowing. You allow the space to emerge, and in this space, in this clarity that appears when the sediment of your past settles, a new way of seeing the world becomes possible. This is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without an empty cup, any new wisdom you try to pour in will only become tainted by what is already there. So the first practice is courage. The courage to stop adding and to simply be with what is, allowing it to settle all on its own. This process requires a deep trust. We are so used to being busy, to fixing, to managing our thoughts. The idea of just letting them be can feel unproductive or even scary. We think, if I don't control my worries, they will consume me. But it is the very act of fighting with them that gives them their power. A thought is like a guest at your door. If you fight with it and try to push it out, it will push back. It will become a struggle at the threshold of your mind. But if you simply acknowledge it, worry is here again, and you do not serve it tea, you do not invite it to stay, you simply let it be, you will find that it eventually leaves on its own. It has no energy to sustain itself if you do not feed it with your attention and your struggle. The heaven we seek is not a destination filled with pleasure, but a state of being characterized by this inner quiet and clarity. It is the experience of the clear water, not the turbulent mud. But this state cannot be achieved by force. It is an outcome of release. It is what remains when you have let go of everything you are clinging to. So the work is not in construction, but in deconstruction. You are not building a heavenly mindset. You are dismantling the mental structure of your personal hell, of your suffering. And what remains when that structure is gone? What is left when the clutter is cleared? It is your own true nature, a state of peace, of love, of clarity that was always there, just waiting beneath the noise. The most profound spiritual masters have all pointed to this. It is a return home, not a journey to a foreign land. So I ask you again, what is in your cup? And are you willing, just for a moment, to set it down and let the mud settle? This is the beginning of thinking in a new dimension. Seeing clearly, once the process of emptying the cup has begun and the sediment of our conditioning starts to settle, we move to the next stage of this transformation. This stage is about perception. It is about learning to see the world and ourselves, not through the filter of our cloudy minds, but with the clarity of a clean mirror. A consciousness like that of a great master is often described as a perfect mirror. It does not judge what it reflects. It does not cling to beautiful images or push away ugly ones. It simply reflects what is exactly as it is, without distortion. Our personal mind, on the other hand, is more like a distorted, dirty mirror. It is covered in the smudges of our past experiences, our fears, our desires, our opinions. So when reality appears before it, we do not see reality. We see our smudges. We see our distortions. We look at a person and we do not see them. We see our past experiences with people like them. We look at a challenge and we do not see the challenge. We see our fear of failure. To live like heaven is to live in a world that is seen clearly. It is to interact with reality as it is, not with the ghost of our own minds. Imagine you are walking through a beautiful forest. If your mind is full of worry about your work, you do not see the trees. You do not hear the birds. You do not feel the earth beneath your feet. You are walking through your thoughts, not through the forest. The forest is heaven, a place of profound beauty and peace, but you are living in the hell of your own anxious mind. The external world has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the quality of your perception. The ability to see clearly is the ability to be present. It is the ability to withdraw your energy from the world of thought, the past and the future, and to place it firmly in the here and now. This is where life is actually happening. The practice here is one of paying attention. It is the cultivation of what is often called mindfulness, but let us use a simpler term. It is the practice of returning. Over and over again your mind will wander. This is its nature. It will get caught by a sound, a memory, a sensation, and it will build a story around it. It will drift into the past or race into the future. The practice is not to scold the mind for wandering. This is very important. To scold the mind is to create more disturbance, to smudge the mirror even more. The practice is to gently, kindly, and patiently guide it back. You are sitting and focusing on your breath. The mind wanders to a conversation you had yesterday. You notice. And with the kindness you would show a small child, you say, "Ah, there is the mind wandering." And you gently guide your attention back to the feeling of your breath. Each time you do this, you are performing a sacred act. You are cleaning a small spot on the mirror. Each gentle return to the present moment wipes away a little bit of the grime of unconsciousness. At first, you may have to do it 100 times in a minute. It can feel frustrating. But with practice, something remarkable happens. The mind begins to settle. The moments of clarity, the moments where you are truly seeing what is in front of you, begin to last longer. You begin to notice the taste of your food. You begin to truly hear what your loved one is saying instead of just planning your response. You start to see the world with the freshness and wonder of a child because you are seeing it as it is, not through the thick, dull filter of your concepts about it. This clarity of perception is the source of great compassion. When you see your own mind clearly, you see the patterns of fear, of anger, of insecurity that cause you to suffer. You see how they operate, how they pull you away from peace. And when you see this in yourself with clarity and without judgment, you can then look at another person and see the same patterns in them. When someone acts out of anger, you no longer see an angry person. You see a person who is suffering, a person whose mind is clouded, a person who is trapped in a painful pattern. Your reaction is no longer one of anger or judgment in return. It is one of understanding. You see their cloudy mirror, and your own mirror remains clear. This is the essence of what is called forgiveness. It is not a moral commandment. It is the natural outcome of seeing clearly. You see that their actions come from a place of confusion and pain. It is not personal. It is the universal human condition playing out through them. This ability to see beyond the surface behavior and to perceive the underlying suffering is a hallmark of a Christ-like consciousness. It is a love that is not conditional on behavior. It is a love that comes from a deep, clear seeing of the true nature of things. So the practice is simple, but not easy. Return to the present. Return to your senses. Feel your feet on the ground. Hear the sounds around you. See the light in the room. Each return is an act of polishing the mirror. And as the mirror becomes cleaner, the world you see transforms. Or rather, you see that the world was never the problem. The only problem was your inability to see it clearly. Heaven was always here, waiting to be perceived. Cultivating garden. After we have started to empty our cup and polish our mirror, we arrive at a more active phase of the practice. If the mind is a space, it is not just a space to be cleared, but a space to be cultivated. Imagine your mind is a garden. For many of us, we have allowed this garden to grow wild for our entire lives. We have paid no attention to what is being planted. The seeds of anger, resentment, jealousy, and fear, carried on the winds of daily life, have landed in the fertile soil of our minds and have grown into thick, thorny weeds. These weeds choke out the light. They consume all the nutrients. And then we wonder why our inner world feels so dark, so barren, so painful. We are living in a garden overrun with weeds, and we have forgotten that we are the gardener. To live like heaven is to consciously and deliberately cultivate the garden of your mind. It is to understand that you have a choice about what you allow to grow there. This does not mean you can prevent the seeds of negativity from ever arriving. The winds will always blow. People will say hurtful things. Unfortunate events will occur. The seeds of anger and fear will inevitably land in your garden. The practice is not about building a wall to keep the wind out. That is impossible. The practice is about choosing which seeds you will water. When a seed of anger lands in your mind, you have a choice. You can water it with your attention. You can replay the event over and over. You can dwell on how you were wronged. You can fantasize about revenge. When you do this, you are nurturing that seed. You are giving it water and sunlight, and it will grow into a strong, thorny bush that poisons your inner world. Or you have another choice. You can acknowledge the seed. The seed of anger is here, but you do not water it, you let it be, and instead you turn your attention to a different part of the garden. You find a small struggling flower of gratitude, and you choose to water that instead. You deliberately bring to mind something you are thankful for. You focus on a moment of kindness you received. You think about the simple gift of your own breath. You are now watering the seed of gratitude. You are giving your energy, your life force, to that which you want to see grow. The unwatered seed of anger, deprived of your attention, will wither and die. It cannot grow without your participation. This is the great secret of mental cultivation. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. This is a profoundly active and empowering understanding of the mind. You are not a passive victim of your thoughts and emotions. You are the gardener. You have the power to shape your inner landscape. The kingdom of heaven is a well-tended garden, a place where flowers of compassion, kindness, patience, and joy are flourishing because they have been consciously cultivated. The state of hell is a neglected garden where the weeds of hatred, greed, and delusion have been allowed to take over. The soil is the same. The potential for both is always there. The only difference is the presence and wisdom of the gardener. So what are the practical tools for this gardening? One of the most powerful is the practice of intentional thought. You can begin your day by planting a seed on purpose. You can decide, today I will water the seed of patience. Then, Throughout the day, you look for opportunities to be patient. When you are in a long line, instead of watering the seed of frustration, you remember your intention and you consciously relax. You use that moment to practice. You are actively tending your garden. Another tool is the practice of loving kindness. You can sit for a few minutes and intentionally send thoughts of wellness and peace, first to yourself, then to loved ones, then to neutral people, and eventually even to those with whom you have difficulty. You are watering the flower of compassion. At first, this may feel artificial. It may feel like you are just pretending. But what is a habit? It is just a pattern of thought and action that has been repeated so many times it has become automatic. You have spent years automatically watering the weeds. Now you are consciously and with effort starting to water the flowers. With repetition, this new choice will become easier. It will become more natural. Eventually, it will become the new habit. Your automatic tendency will be to move toward kindness, toward patience, toward gratitude. You will have reshaped the very landscape of your mind. This is not about suppressing negativity. Suppression is resistance, and what you resist persists. This is about redirection. You are not fighting the weeds. You are simply choosing to grow beautiful flowers instead. And as the flowers grow stronger and taller, they will naturally take up the space, leaving less and less room for the weeds to thrive. This is how you build heaven, one thought, one choice, one watered seed at a time. Dissolving self. We have come to the final and perhaps the most subtle part of our journey. We have spoken of emptying the cup, of seeing with clarity, and of cultivating the garden. All of these are essential, but they all operate on the level of the individual self, the me who is doing the emptying, the seeing, and the cultivating. The ultimate mindset shift, the one that truly unlocks a state of being that could be called heavenly or Christ-like, involves a transformation of this very sense of me. It involves the dissolving of the separate self. This is the most powerful insight because the small, separate self, the ego, is the root cause of all suffering. It is the primary weed in the garden. It is the source of all the mud in the cup. What is this self we are talking about? It is not your body. It is not your consciousness. It is a mental construction. It is a story. It is a collection of memories, beliefs, and identities that you have gathered throughout your life. I am this kind of person. I am good at this, bad at that. This happened to me in the past, so I am wounded. I need to achieve this in the future to be happy. This collection of thoughts creates a tight, constricted sense of a separate me that is moving through the world, trying to get what it wants and avoid what it fears. This me is fundamentally insecure because it is not real. It is a ghost, a story, and it is terrified of its own non-existence. Therefore, it is constantly seeking to reinforce itself through validation, through being right, through acquiring possessions, status, and experiences. This constant striving, this desperate need to protect and enhance the story of me is the source of all conflict. It is what makes us feel offended. It is what makes us greedy. It is what makes us jealous. It is what makes us afraid of death. The story of me is what separates us from others and from the flow of life itself. Now consider the consciousness of a great master. When you look at their actions, you see a notable absence of this self-centered striving. Their actions flow from a place of deep connection to the whole. They act not for personal gain, but for the good of all beings. There is a transparency to them. Life moves through them. They are not a solid, opaque obstacle trying to impose their will on the world. They are more like an open window through which the light of compassion and wisdom can shine. The phrase, "I and the Father are one," can be understood in this light. It is a statement of the dissolution of the small, separate self into a larger, universal consciousness. It is the realization that I, the little story, am not separate from the totality of existence. This is the ultimate freedom. When the story of me dissolves, who is there to be offended? Who is there to be afraid? Who is there to feel lack? The suffering that was tied to that story dissolves along with it. What remains is simply being, presence, love, a profound sense of peace that is not dependent on external circumstances because the one who was dependent on them is gone. So how do we practice this? We practice by observing the me. We watch how it operates. We notice the constant need to be right in a conversation. We notice the feeling of jealousy when someone else succeeds. We notice the way we replay past hurts to reinforce our identity as a victim. We simply watch this mechanism without judgment. In the clear light of our awareness, we begin to see it for what it is, a collection of conditioned patterns. We see that it is not our true nature. We practice letting go of our stories. When the mind wants to cling to an old grievance, we let it go. When the mind wants to boast about an accomplishment, we let it go. We are not trying to destroy the ego. That is just another form of aggression. We are simply withdrawing our belief in it. We stop feeding it. This leads to a life of service. When the focus is no longer on what can I get, the natural question that arises is, what can I give? The energy that was once consumed by protecting and enhancing the self is now liberated to be used for the benefit of others. This is not a moralistic duty. It is the natural expression of a liberated consciousness. You see another person and you do not see a them separate from you. You see another expression of the same life, the same consciousness. Their joy is your joy. Their suffering is your suffering. And so you act. You act with kindness, with generosity, with compassion, because it is the most natural thing in the world to do. You are simply life taking care of itself. This is the state of living like heaven. It is to live as an open channel for love and wisdom to flow into the world, unhindered by the small, frightened story of a separate self. It is the final letting go. It is the ultimate return home. This journey from a cluttered mind to an open heart is the greatest adventure a human being can undertake. It is the path of self-liberation, the path to finding the heaven that is not in the sky, but hidden in the depths of your own consciousness. It is not something you achieve one day in the future. It is a state you touch every time you let go, every time you see clearly, every time you choose to water a flower instead of a weed, and every time you loosen your grip on the story of who you think you are. It is here for you now. I've been struggling with forgiveness for years, not towards others, but myself. The emptying cup idea, just wow. The thought that I don't need to force myself to feel forgiveness, but instead just stop feeding the judgment and let the mud settle. That's a small shift that feels like it just changed my entire world. Thank you for this clarity. I'm going to just sit with my cup for a while.